Hey everyone, Diggs here for Lockpickers United, and welcome back to Teardown Tuesday. The lock of the week this week is the Abloy Disklock, and I love Abloy because they just slap their name real big right on the face of all their locks. And it's a good thing, they're proud of their product. Most high quality lock companies do the same thing. Taking a look at the key here, you can tell it's definitely a disc detainer because all of the cuts on the key are rotationally based. You can see there are different angles there, and what that means is when all the discs are set vertically, they'll be contacted by the key at different points in the rotation, and they'll set them in the proper place and allow the sidebar to enter the plug. So what you see on the back here is we've got a brass washer, and on top of that we've got a little ring clip here. And I'm not using the right tool to pull this out, but I don't have the right tool, so I'm doing it with what I got. What I'm trying to do is push the end of this clip right into that little window. And now that I've got it there, I feel confident that I can pry it out. All it takes is a little flat tip, and definitely put your finger on top of these because the first time I tried starting this video, that thing shot across the room and I had to go find it. Out comes the washer. And at this point the plug is ready to just slide out the back, but I forgot that. So I start putting the key in and I'm like, wait a second, maybe I can just push this out. And then once the sidebar section that's raised there in the back gets loose, you can see the plug's just ready to pop out. So I put my finger on it to hold everything in place. And once you look in the lock body, you'll see that I've got two little ball bearings and that front spacer disc. I'm not sure exactly the name for this little plate here, but you can see it only goes in one way. It's got a lip on it to prevent it from coming out the front, and it's got two little springs for these two little ball bearings, which sit in these detents. What that does, I think, is just reduce wear on the lock overall. And here we've got a real interesting sidebar on the top. It'll come out in just a second, but I want to show you that once you rotate all the discs to the proper rotation, then you can insert the sidebar into all of the discs, which removes it from the lock body and frees the plug to turn. Now I'm going to take this interesting sidebar out of here and show you. It's pretty neat. It's the first one that I've seen like this, and it's got a little elbow to it. It's L-shaped, and I believe it's shaped that way so that you can't drill a small hole and then pull it out of the lock face. You would have to drill out the back side of the lock. Here we've got a little metal piece that positions that sidebar at the back. And you'll see that it's spring loaded by both a pin and a very small spring. So down in this hole back here, you can see there is a steel pin. Nothing special about it cut-wise, just a little steel pin. And then down in that dark hole, there is a spring, I promise. You can't see it, but it's a tiny little guy, and it's pretty interesting to look at, I think. Trying not to lose it here. And now that I got all that out of the top of it, I can show you the rotation of the discs with the key. It's almost like having a cutaway because it all functions outside the lock body. And I'll rotate it back and forth a few times just because it's mesmerizing to me. I don't know about you guys, but just watching this thing work is really interesting. What I'm showing off here is that you can turn it all the way left or all the way right, and in either case you will be able to insert the sidebar. So what that means is it's birotational for one, but two, it means that there's two true gates in each of the discs. What that means for picking is that there are more positions that these discs can be in which are correct. You'll notice that the discs in chamber 4 and the last chamber are different than all the rest of them. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that the disc in position 4 and the last disc are solid through most of their rotation, and it's because they're different. They're tensioning discs. They perform an important function, which definitely affects how you pick these. Looking at the front, you can see the 2 return bars. They are steel rods that go all the way down the bottom of all the discs. What these return bars do is exactly what their name implies. They return all the discs to the proper rotation after you've cycled the lock. So now I'm going to start pulling all of these discs out, and different sections of this are sped up just because we're only going to talk about the pieces that stand out, let's say. First, I'm going to show you one disc. What I'm pointing out here are the false gates, and there's a true gate in there, which is much wider and deeper. And then you've got some false gates on the bottom. And then that bottom area there is where the return bars do their business and push all those things back to where they need to be to reset the lock. There you can see it's recessed on one side and it extends out on the other side. And that little extension fits directly into the gap that's in each spacer. So between every disc in this lock, of which there are 11, there's a spacer. And they're there for anti-friction purposes and to keep everything aligned. But what they wind up also doing is allowing you to move one disc at a time without moving its neighbor. So they wind up kind of helping you in the picking process. Now this is a tension disc. That's position number 4. What I'm showing you is it fits the profile of the key exactly. So where there are no cuts, this disc interacts perfectly. So at the back of the key, at the tip of the key, which tensions the back disc, and then in key cut position 4, right there, you'll see it's a full-bodied key. There are no angled cuts right on that lip. That's position 4. And why that's important to you as a picker is if you don't properly position disc 4 and the back disc for tensioning purposes, you will not be able to bind any of the other discs, and therefore you will not be able to pick this lock. Now here the return bars are coming out. There's not enough discs to keep them in their position, which you'll see when we take a look at the plug. Now these are nothing special, steel rods, kind of hard to hold on to, but other than that, nothing too interesting here. Let's get the rest of these discs out of here. And you see the last disc is also a tensioning disc. It looks just like disc number 4. And this is what a spacer looks like. It's very featureless. It's got a wide open area in the center. It does not interact with the key at all. And you see it has those fingers at the top. I'll show you in just a second here with my tweezers. The top of this spacer here is much taller than anywhere on a regular disc. And that's to keep them positioned correctly in the body of the plug, which has a cutout at the top. Now looking at the lock body here, this is a mortise format, and what you'll see are a very deep sidebar channel there, and then a lip at the front, which keeps the whole stack from sliding out the front. And this plate right here, putting these two together, sandwiching the ball bearings in there, and then keeping them together is the most difficult part of putting this lock back together. So the way I recommend you do it is you put that silver front piece back into the lock body and position it correctly. And then once you have all the stack of discs back into the plug, you set the ball bearings into those little divots that are there, that are designed for them, and hold that plug straight up and down. And if you keep that plug perfectly vertical and slide the lock body down on top of it, you can get those ball bearings sandwiched in there without losing it. So here I'm showing you the plug. You can see the slot cut out of the bottom there. That slot is so that they could cut a lip in here. And what it does is stops those return bars from traveling too far. You can see there's 2 slots cut there for the bars to sit in as well. And that's the disc lock.